Thank you for all you do, Legal Aid DC. We've heard today about some of that affecting work, and I just want to begin centering the conversation on why we're here. And we're here because you perform an extraordinary service to this great city and to our nation's capital. Thanks to all of my friends who said those kind things about me, to Chin, who was prepared even before this room of distinguished lawyers to perjure himself. It is only our shared love of Legal Aid DC that would bring him to such calumny, but I appreciate it nevertheless. I'm also, as I look at that video, and Damon, Chin, Vanita, and I, we all did start at the LDF within a month of each other, and Vanita's right. I didn't know much about the law, not too much about civil rights law. I had aspirations. I was prepared to toil and to get better at it. And with their help, I began to learn that they were an extraordinary group, and they had such energy, and you could see that each of them was going to do such important things that I named them the Young Turks, because I saw that they were the vanguard of the next set of leaders out there. And each one of them has gone on to prove that in many, many ways, a vanguard of next generation leaders. And so you're not quite as young as you used to be, but you're still my Turks, and I'm very proud of you. And you helped me to understand that sometimes to lead a people, you walk behind them. And walking behind Damon and Chin and Vanita is one of the great professional honors of my career. So thank you for all that you have done for the nation. Thanks also to Legal Aid DC, to Vikram, to Rob, to the staff in the trenches every day for what you do, showing up in the hard cases and showing up in unflinching ways. Thanks to my partners and friends at WilmerHale, Lauren Moore, David Ogden, Kim Parker, Seth, all of you who have showed up today and show up year after year for this great organization. I really appreciate your leadership, and the reason I'm at WilmerHale is because it's a firm that looks beyond the billable hour to consider what the rule of law means and what a lawyer's place in society can be. And each of you live that, and I appreciate you for it. Some of my friends from the U.S. Civil Rights Commission are here, some of my former public servant colleagues, and I appreciate you. Thanks for all you do. And last but certainly not least, those folks who took me in at the Senate Judiciary Committee with Senator Leahy, the staffers of Senator Leahy, who did so much, and Josh Hsu leading the charge, corralling all of them today. I'm not going to stay long, but I have to begin with an important reflection that this dinner has sort of restored to my dimming memory. That reflection is when I was preparing to argue one of those voting cases, but before it got to a penultimate court, it was before a very important court with a very exacting three-judge panel. It was a constitutional challenge to the Voting Rights Act. There was a lot of weight that was attendant on that case because it's about the nation, it's about the democracy itself. And so I had to sort of talk myself into how an Irish Nigerian son of immigrants from the Bronx, New York, who stands on a good day, maybe 5'7", was the person that should be at the podium to defend something that was so important to the nation. And I didn't really have a lot to work with. And so what I thought about is, the one thing I know is that I know the record in that case better than almost anybody. And the only reason that was the case is because I had put in more hours than anybody working on the legislative effort to help build what Congress would pass, President Bush would sign, and then what we were defending in those cases. So the one thing I had going to the podium was that I knew the record, and then I argued the case before David Tatel. And it was quite jarring and unsettling to so quickly come to understand that I didn't know the record better than everybody in the country, and that there was one very formidable person who I was looking up at who knew the record much better than I did. And so as I was trying to think about the legal argument and where I wanted to go, I was also just trying to figure out how he had digested 16,000 pages of a congressional record that took me years to understand, and yet he had captured it and understood it so much better. And so I left that day in a bit of a quandary, but also knowing that David Tatel would do justice in that case. And it's my view that the best opinion on the Voting Rights Act, the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act, is the opinion that was authored by David Tatel, not only because he got the result right, but it's a brilliant, brilliant opinion, and I commend it to everybody. But I also left understanding that I wanted to be a better lawyer because I had been before an extraordinary jurist who showed me what it meant to pressure test both sides in an argument. And so I'm still working at it, Judge Tatel, but you helped push me along, and I thank you for your years of service. They have been extraordinary, and the country is better for it. Thank you. Finally, we're here to lift up the mission of an extraordinary organization, Legal Aid DC. It means so much to all of us. That's why we're here. We've heard some powerful, powerful testimonials today, and what we understand is that you are an organization that stands in the breach for those who may not have enough others to stand in the breach. You give people hope, you make lives tolerable and full, you replace despair with feelings of empowerment, and you stand boldly and bravely in cases where the advocacy is very hard and too often resources are very slim. We thank you and are inspired by that example. But I also must offer a personal testimonial about why it's so meaningful to me to be able to lift up the mission of this organization, about why Legal Aid DC is so important to me, a big law partner from New York, I guess. I may not be the most obvious person to be standing here. But what I will say to you is that thinking about the work of Legal Aid DC in areas such as housing and eviction, public benefits, family, law, and domestic violence, for me, evokes experiences that I had as a young man, when I could only hope to be a lawyer, but had no lawyers in the family and wondered if I could ever navigate the thicket of unstable housing, food insecurity, as well as the hardships of being proximate to domestic violence in the home. You stand with people that need you to stand with them. You stand with people who you recognize are strong, resilient, ambitious, and too often underestimated. But you do so because you can see beyond the moment, beyond the circumstances of your clients, to what is possible, what is just, and what is fair. That is inspirational. That is the finest traditions of our legal system, and we are better for it, and we thank you for it every day. I leave you with some words that I carry from some mentors, peers, and colleagues at the bar. Brian Stevenson reminds us that our legal degrees summon us to have the courage to be proximate to poverty and to see what we need to see and to know what we must know to have a deeper understanding about the conditions of our fellow brothers and sisters. My partner Seth Waxman explains that his pro bono and public service is informed by the concept of tikkun olam, repairing and improving the world. The late, great John Payton, former DC Corporation Counsel, my boss at LDF and former Director Counsel, said that he spent most of his life attempting to make this a better and more just society and to make a more just world. John said, it's been exhilarating. And so I say to the legal aid staff, those folks who stood to be acknowledged and those folks who didn't stand because you didn't want the Klieg lights on you, you just want to show up tomorrow and appear in court and call your clients and develop the record, I say to all of you, stay proximate to poverty and hardship in aid of greater understanding. Repair and improve the world and fight unflinchingly to make it more just every day, one order at a time, for all those people of D.C. who will never be voiceless on your watch. Thanks for what you commit yourself to, for what you do, and for all the reasons that you do it. I can tell you there are little kids who are watching you and preparing themselves to be you before too long. Thank you so very much, and please continue to support this extraordinary treasure of Washington, D.C.